I'm starting something new. Initially, this particular series was supposed to be basically, what do you call it? Videos, basically standard videos whereby like I edit, I use amazing editing skills and I try to basically make it as visually incredible as possible. But because I do this channel alone and I don't have enough time to actually be um, properly editing basically all of these videos on a weekly basis because this whole stream thing, like this whole boxing versus MMA stream, I'm going to be doing it at least once a week. I'm not set on a specific day of the week. So normally between Monday and Sunday, I react to MMA outcomes, whether it's pay-per-view or fight nights. And then from that point on Tuesday, so between Tuesday and Thursday, there isn't much that I do live. So this is going to be one of the things that I do. As you can see from the description of the video, I will be going through on a weekly basis. I'll be going through a variety of things, comparing both boxing and MMA. Today, the topic is basically the fighting style, basically, especially when it comes to um, real life situations, basically, not necessarily as a sport. Obviously, maybe as a sport, but also as like in real life. So this is something I'm going to be doing on a weekly basis. I'll tell you guys the time. So between Friday and Saturday, I'm going to be giving you my predictions for UFC fight nights or pay-per-views, and then between Sunday and Monday, it's reactions. So between Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to be doing this series, MMA versus boxing. So let's get to it. So before we even start, I would like to disclose the fact that I'm an MMA fan, specifically UFC. So if maybe some of my views seem biased, which I try not to be, I try very hard to be an objective person, unbiased basically. I try my best to not be a bias. I try to be not to be biased basically, which is going to be obviously difficult because obviously I watch MMA on a weekly basis. But nonetheless, I'll try not to let that affect me. You guys can also give me your opinions on what I'm saying. This is a conversation. It's not necessarily me telling you guys what is what. It's basically my opinion, and I believe that I can be wrong. So if you guys feel like, okay, this guy is talking crap, then you can tell me not that way. I mean, say it nicely. Don't say like the things I'm saying are crap. But nonetheless, you are free to disagree with what I'm saying, right? So let's get to it. Um, Primarily, boxing. I think this is something that everyone should know at this point. Whether you watch MMA or you watch boxing, this is something that you should probably know. But I'm going. This is basically the foundation of the conversation, so I have to start with the basics at the very least. Primarily, obviously, boxing utilizes footwork. It utilizes hands, basically, especially this part of the hand. Not necessarily the whole hand. It uses the ends, basically, the hand, not the arm. Yes, I needed to describe. English is not my home language, guys. So if maybe it trips me up, forgive me. So yeah, boxing primarily uses the hand, not the whole arm, which I feel like on its own is extremely limiting in a real life combat situation. So before I proceed with this, I'm going to be keeping scores. Like I said at the beginning of this stream, I'm going to be doing regular live like this every single week. So this is basically me trying to actually figure out which one is really better. So from the get-go, I feel like there are so many limitations to what you can do if you are a boxer in a real life situation. So boxers normally use obviously footwork and these parts of the hands, right? Whereas conversely, even a basic MMA fighter, let's not even mention the UFC, let's just talk about someone who's fighting in the regional scene, because there are incredible regional fighters. As we always say, if you watch UFC and you watch prelims, you probably know that there are a lot of incredible regional fighters who come into the UFC and they beat the people who are ranked globally. So even someone in the regional scene, if they were put in a real life situation, I remember the situation between Tyson Fury and John Jones. There was a debate about, well, which fighting style is better and all those type of things. In terms of reaction, I think I'd lean more towards boxing because because as it relates to how a fight starts, and that's something that's normally said in MMA, every single fight starts on the feet. So in terms of quick reaction, who's going to have the opportunity to land first? It's most likely the person who has boxing training, and because of their pinpoint accuracy, um, we have to go back to even. Keep me coming back to this, but I want to reference something that Bruce Lee once said. Bruce Lee once said that he does not fear someone who knows 1,000 kicks. He fears someone who has practiced one kick 1,000 times, which is basically what boxers do, as opposed to MMA fighters. Boxers boxers train one particular skill over and over and over and over and over again, whereas MMA fighters are forced to look at a variety of elements, and in a sense, the majority of the time, they never actually master any of them, right? So that's why we see in the UFC specifically, because I watch the UFC, that's why we normally end up seeing fighters who come to the UFC maybe with one particular skill and then they just improve the other one so that they can compete in that particular sport, because there are so many. That's why it's called mixed martial arts. There's so many elements. When I started watching MMA, it was mind blowing to me to learn that there's a difference between jiu-jitsu and wrestling. I didn't even know there was a difference. So purely because of, and both of those fighting styles are on the ground basically. They require, like, you fight on the ground. You're not necessarily fighting standing up. So even standing up, there are a variety of fighting styles that you have to find a way to actually learn and master. Which basically, for simple examples are, maybe you can have a fighting style, yeah, maybe taekwondo, karate, even boxing. There are even boxers in the UFC, but boxing in the UFC is going to be a very huge disadvantage, especially with leg kicks being so popular in today's time. So let's go. Let me just start giving points and just try to see if I can. Why are you calling me a casual? I mean, I said if you disagree with what I'm saying, I would prefer if you give me your opinion as it relates to, like, why you disagree, as opposed to just calling me a casual. Um, Mixed martial arts. What is Matthews? Your name is Matthews. Define what mixed martial arts is, because I don't know what specifically you're referring to when you say I'm a casual. Obviously, I'm giving my opinion on certain topic. I think you should have watched the stream from the beginning in order to understand what I'm doing. I'm going to give you my opinion, and every single person is allowed to have their opinion on this particular topic. I'm going to be doing this on a weekly basis. It's a conversation. It's not me telling you what is what. It's me actually saying, these are the things that I've noticed, and I feel like this is better than this. So, in terms of, let's go back to what I was saying. In terms of reaction time, right? Reaction time, I'll give it to boxing in terms of reaction time. But in terms of all round fighting, and this is in a real life situation, not a sporting situation. Obviously, boxers in a sporting situation, like if there are rules and stuff like that, they obviously cannot use their elbows. There are certain things that they can't use, which they can use if it's a street fight, for example. So those are things that I have to take into consideration. And also, like I was saying before I got to this point, that boxers train one specific skill over and over and over again, which makes them significantly better, even though the other person, the MMA fighter, will probably know a variety of ways to win a fight. It's kind of difficult to actually tell um, which particular art will actually prevail, but I'd say MMA, because if you can't knock out someone within the first few encounters, whenever it is that maybe you are fighting, whatever the case is. If you can't end that fight within a few seconds, then the most likely possibility is that you're going to go to the ground. And even if it's not a knockout, like most MMA fighters know how to take you to the ground. So in terms of so in terms thank you, casual MMA. Like this guy was calling me casual. I don't know why. But back to what I was saying. So at this point for me, it's 1-1 because in terms of reaction time, I'll give it to boxing. Boxers will most likely be able to react a little bit faster and knock you out a little bit faster. In terms of a lengthy fight, like if the fight does not end within seconds, then the advantage will go to the boxer, to the MMA fighter. So ultimately, there aren't that many elements to consider apart from that because a fight is complex. But obviously, the longer the fight goes, the more likely that the MMA fighter will win. Most likely because boxers won't know how to defend themselves on the ground. So because of that, I think for this, do you train? Yeah, I'm working on doing that. I recently started, but yeah, not properly officially. But yeah, I've recently started. But yeah, nonetheless, so this stream I'll end it by saying I'll do this stream for another topic next week, obviously, and obviously Friday I'm going to do predictions. But I'm going to end this stream by saying, based on everything that I've mentioned, I feel like reaction time I'll give it to the boxer, but in terms of a lengthier fight, I'll give it to the MMA fighter. But because in most cases and because MMA fighters have some level of an ability to actually defend themselves if ever a fight gets to or is required to stay standing. Um, for this particular stream and for this particular topic, I will go with the MMA fighter. I think, in terms of real life situations, I think the MMA fighting is a little bit practical and more better in a real life situation because MMA fighters know a variety of ways to actually win a fight as opposed to one specific way. Even though, like I said, when someone knows something so good, then they can be more dangerous than someone who knows 100 things. But because one of the 100 things that the MMA fighter knows is also striking, then the probability of them surviving will be significantly higher. So I'll go with the MMA fighter. Francis Ngannou is a simple example of that. Even though there have been, MMA fighters who haven't done so well, that who haven't done so well when they try to box. Um, I think we have seen what I'm talking about in what Francis Ngannou did, and I think all those other MMA fighters are not good examples. Even though Anderson Silva was a striker, he was old, and Jake Paul couldn't even finish him. Tyrone Woodley, he was a wrestler. He mixed it up. Obviously, he has knockouts and all those type of things. but I wouldn't call him like an incredible striker. So Francis Ngannou is a simple example of someone who started his boxing training and then eventually decided to go into MMA. So that's a simple example of what I'm referring to. Imagine Tyson Fury or any boxer in an octagon with Francis Ngannou. So yeah, this is where my stream will end. I'll see you guys Friday when I do my predictions for Brendan Moreno versus Brendan Royval. I'm also doing these streams because I have a awards show where it's a combat sports awards show. So it's not for a specific sport; it's for a variety of sports, combat sports. So I'm trying to bring boxing and MMA fans together so that whenever there's voting and nominations, because towards the end of the year, I post for people to nominate who they feel like should win the awards, and based on that, those are the people who win. So I'm trying to create a community whereby even boxing fans can actually nominate their people, as opposed to the award show being just for MMA fans. But primarily, obviously, this is going to be an MMA channel. For the one guy or a girl who's been watching this all this time, I appreciate you, man. And everyone who logged in and out, obviously, and those that will watch after. But it's always nice to conversate with people. See you on the next one, Friday, basically. Deuces.